in real life. Yeah. We know our due dates. That's all that matters. It's the end of the semester generally. So that's the final due date. Okay, cool. Let's jump in and look at my car model now. So I'll go back to my car. So let's get that thing started. We kind of looked at the spec sheet on Tuesday at least. So I've got my spec sheet for the car right there. So I'm going to open this thing up. And you can make a project file for your car as well if you want to do that. We can make a, in fact, I probably will because it's just so much easier to get to my file structure. So I'm going to have this up, and what I'm going to, so what I think I mentioned that I'm kind of thinking of building my car as a subtractive type project. Um, and if you've ever, that's how they kind of start Pinewood Derby is you start with a block of wood. So I'm going to model something for my car that just starts with this. And I do agree. We can definitely exceed the height of 3 inches if you would like to. Um, but so really what I need to know are these dimensions here. And so let's go. So I'm going to go over to, and I don't really need the wheel, any of the other resources in there. I don't need the wheels and axles until I have an assembly, but I can start an assembly pretty soon on this because sometimes it's nice to get a little bit of work done on your part, put it in the assembly for my, and then I can kind of start evaluating with the wheels and how on my Beetle, I'm definitely going to have some fender wells around the tires, kind of. So I like to get an idea of what that looks like with in the assembly. So I'll do a little bit of work on it probably, and then put it into an assembly and get an assembly file started. And yeah, yeah. So I'm going to make. I think I'll make a similar file structure though for this. Where is it at? This one. So I'm going to go to my file structure that I have and build a car one as well. So it's in my same class here. Yeah, if I have a class right there. Got my 3D Derby car. I just need to make a new folder for this as well. It's my new car for 2026. And I'll need a similar folder structure in there. I just need parts and assemblies and drawings. Yeah. I don't have too many spec sheets for this one, so I don't really need a resources one, but yeah. And I guess I could have copied my other file structure over, but I'll just make them new. So parts, assemblies, drawings. That's probably all I really need for this particular car, parts, assemblies, and drawings. Plus I have a folder, so I can go to Inventor and I'm gonna create a new project for my maybe I am. Yes, for my car. So I'm gonna create a new project. It's a single use project. Yes. My project name is um, 3D Derby car. Or you can name it your car, whatever you want. Name your folder is great. Or your project. I'm going to drive down and find that folder I just built. Link to it. That one. Okay. So I'm pick my main one. I'm going to say finish. So I've got my, and so it says like, oh, you've got multiple. You'll always get this, if you're working in one particular project and you jump outside of that file structure, you always get these warnings like, hey, close down the stuff from that one or this one. And it doesn't make you do it, but it wants you to be aware that you have like multiple inventor project file parts or whatever open. So I'm going to say, okay, done with that. Eventually, I need to build a good library system for you guys to link to in there. And so, yeah, maybe I should work all summer long on a sweet content center. I think we'll be able to use the default content center for most of what we need. But we may have to drive down and find it when we want to apply those parts to our stuff. But so I'm going to close my solid, I guess, because I'm not in that. I'll say no changes to that. And so yeah, now I can just switch pretty quick between whichever project I'm working on. So if I just double click on this one, that's where I'm working. And that's the nature of Inventor. This whole project management is it as a normal as a drafter, you might have like 5 or 6 different projects you're working on. And this is a quick way to just get to their file structures and manage your projects a little faster. It's also why you want to link some of those libraries because you'll get that disclaimer like you're working out of the project unless it's linked into your libraries and how and so then let me see if I go back to the settings here. So I may have to come in here and on my projects I may need to link the library, the default library, and so maybe we'll do that when we start having to pull parts for sure on the screw conveyor. But we may have to link to the default library because otherwise the default library is just in the default. So, but we can link that stuff by adding it to our to what is available for me in that project to search through. Even though you can work outside of it all you want, you just get those warnings. So, okay, cool. 3D Derby car. Yes, that's the project I'm working on. I need to make a new part. So it's going to be my English part as well, my English standard part. Create that thing. It's kind of similar. I'm going to think of my car as like looking at the front bumper on my front view and looking at the profile of my car, like down the side. So I'm definitely going to draw. Well, I'm just going to, yeah, I can start this however. I'm going to start with like a block of, we're going to print on ABS plastic. So I can pick that material right now. So for this particular part, we're going to be on ABS plastic. I don't necessarily have a numbering, but we could use the same kind of ISU numbering system for parts on this as well. You don't have too many parts. You've just got a main car. The wheel axle is already kind of named, so you don't have to follow like I'm going to follow that like ISU numbering system on my screw conveyor. Not so much here. This is only going to be a car part and a couple and a wheel and an axle and a weight or two or 3 or 4. So, but I think ABS plastics in here, right? We'll print this on our big printer when we get done. We usually print a prototype and test it out a little bit, and then we print the real deal. So we'll at least do 2 prints of your car. But ABS is in here, right? Am I crazy? Oh yeah, ABS plastic. That's it. That's what I want to be. And you can change it to whatever color you want. The only colors I had to print it with this semester, like orange, blue, or just kind of an off-tone white. I have a little bit of black, but I don't think I could print the whole class as black. So, but you can print with any of those colors when we get to that point. Um, okay, so I've got ABS. Yeah. All right. So I'm just gonna draw what the block would look like here. And maybe I'll pull up my old car and just look at kind of how I started that one. So let me just open it's outside of my project, so it'll scream at me a little bit. But my Cybertruck is probably in an assembly folder. This is a folder that I have. Yeah, it seems like I thought I had like drawing. It doesn't look like I have. Um, oh, it's just a part. But don't I have an assembly? Oh, right there. Jeez. Okay. Really, actually, I just want to look at the part though. Actually, this is my part. Yes, it's outside of my full file structure, but I still want to preview it. So this is eventually how mine became last year. But I think if I just roll this back, looks like it's, it's a lot of modeling, a lot of things going on here. It's like it's a chop shop of a model is what I think of. But here's my original extrusion, the block that it starts with. And let me just check it. I think it's just probably what's on that. It's 2 3/4 wide by 3 inches tall. And then it was 7 inches long. It's just ABS plastic. I actually have it as PC ABS plastic. I wonder if that is like a little closer to the weight. I'll check that later. But so I just made this block, and that's what I think of as subtracting, like a subtracting type of machining process here. I'm just gonna like chew away at this to develop what I want. But it looks like I just did, oh, some chopping there. It looks like I chopped down the height a couple of different times. Height and width, it looks like I chopped down. Cut my windshield. Let me work down through a few more. Started to do some angular cuts to mine. Yeah. Looks like I cut the wheels in where they went. Kind of interested in what I ended up with here. So I went from 2 3/4 down to that as my overall. And I think I went back out with my fenders to use. So let me see. Eventually, I think I went and added, there's my axles. And I added. One time I shelled it, huh? I was gonna go back and see where was how did I actually do my shell is what I wondered. Which is where you're gonna, I mean, if you print these solid, they'll be way overweight for sure. So you definitely have to like scoop them out. I was just gonna kind of look at when I did that. At some point in here, I did the shell. Oh, right there. So I finally shelled it after I got to this point. Actually, I did a mirror. So I had that already, and then I was ready to like scoop out all the material. So that now it looks like I used a shell thickness of something, which can be changed. I did an eighth of an inch shell. Maybe it was still, structurally sound enough, but uh, that allowed me to like, otherwise I would have been way overweight. So I eventually ended up shelling this out once I got some of my profile features in there to how I wanted it to shell. I didn't have my axles in yet when I shelled it, but then I just said, okay, that was how I wanted to shell it. And then I continued on to add some other features. I must have eventually figured out. There's my fenders starting to go on there. I was kind of interested in what my overall dimensions were once I added my fenders. I don't know if it ended up being 2 3/4, a little bit under that, 2.5. So I could have gone a little bit wider, but I think proportionally this is what my fender will. And this is a critical dimension, though. This is how I knew this one, like between my inside of my wheel well, or essentially where I'm going to drive the nail in, is that this is called out, I think, in the 1 3/4 on this spec sheet. Let me see. Not this one, but my other spec sheet, which didn't open. So Derby car, one more back. Where my spec sheet is. I think it's under right there. Maybe I already had it open. Probably have it open twice. Oh, I already did have it open. But the 1 3/4 is right there. So the clearances center rail width must clear this 1 3/4. So that is what drove my dimension eventually of where I hollowed it out to where this was the dimension where my wheels were going to, essentially my wheel can't go in any closer than that, or I won't straddle the little guide rails that I go down the track. So that's kind of a critical dimension that's on the spec sheet. Eventually, I whittled my way down to that dimension and incorporated that into the wheel. And then I think why my car ended up as wide as it did is because once my wheel fits in here, this is all I needed to kind of cover the wheel width. So that my fender was just slightly probably over the wheel width. And that's what drove my fender. And I got to do something similar on my Beetle here. It's got kind of similar, just curvy instead of these ugly angular ones. But the other thing that's critical is like your wheel, what we'd say is the wheelbase on a vehicle from axle to axle here. 4 inches is the minimum, and I think I mentioned that maybe just so you don't bind up in the turn at the bottom of the slope. Um, uh, so 4 inch would be minimum here. It looks like me for proportionally, I went out a little bit beyond that. I think it was just because I was probably measuring from some pictures is all I did. Because what I did is when I was doing this is I did a little bit of research online and probably pulled some images to work with. If I go back to my car, and I did have a Cybertruck model pictures folder, so I probably will build that. Looks like I was looking at quite a few different pictures of one. Oh, actually, some of this is actually as I modeled. I actually took screenshots, so that's not what I was thinking it was. But I was thinking, looks like I was keeping track of my mass. I was thinking I had a folder of maybe it's just pictures actually. Oh no, this is my winnings. Oh, this is worth looking at here. Maybe. Yes, this is my son. Oh, it's not coming up for some reason. Maybe my file's corrupt. First place though, back when he was like 10 years old or something. Um, oh yeah. Oh, and I did load the Mark Rober which is why my wheels look the way they do and why one is like lifted off. I'm riding on three wheels. The wheels are slightly tipped in, so you're riding on the very edge. This is all final details we can do. We don't have to worry about this in our design necessarily, but usually it's like how you attach your wheels is kind of really specific. If you know, yeah. So I would think I was taking some. Yeah, that was the car that won. It was great. Yeah. Okay. Unfortunately, you can't see. This is the most one. I want to see the podium that says first place. My car my year before that, he was only second place, so we had to so man, those kids are young back then. Holy cow. Now he's an honorary teenager. No, not really. He's great. Great, great. Well, I thought I had some cyber I thought I knew I took some screenshots, images of Cybertruck somewhere. I don't know. Maybe they're on this. Nope. I don't know where they are. But that's what I'm going to do is I'm definitely going to pull in some Volkswagen Beetle pictures and kind of analyze them. But I'm going to go back to my part and start with that original block and just kind of chew it up and then add to it if you need to. So yeah, let's create my block on the start my sketch on the front plane again. It's just a rectangle to start for me. And it's 2 3/4 at its max kind of size. So you don't rub against another car. And it's 3 inches tall, at least. If you need to go beyond that, I know you can. If you decide if you're going to take material away, you definitely can add it to the top. I'm going to keep mine at the 3 inches there. So 2 3/4 by 3. And then I'm just going to extrude that thing 7 inches long. But I'm going to constrain this thing. And I'll just use some geometric constraints here. Center to center and vertical center to center. Excellent. And then I just need to extrude my block 7 inches. I'll just do it equally over my center plane here. It's ABS plastic. And now I'm ready to chop away at this thing. And so you can establish, so I think if I look at how I've done, I've probably had to establish like a lot of different work planes on this. Um, which we've done a little bit of that, right? Like I've established a work plane to maybe start where the windshield cut was going to be or something. So I'm going to not, yeah, go ahead. Oh, 7 inches. Yeah, 7 inches. And then I meet the can close that one down for a minute. Then I meet the design spec. That's 2 3/4, 7. We need to end up weighing less than this with a printed car and weight up to it with weights. And then 3 inches. Yeah. So I just got it as a block. This is how you'd actually buy something if you were to do a wood one. You'd buy a block like that and you can chop it as much as you want. But yeah. These two dimensions are real critical though. This 1 3/4 where that wheel well is, and this 3/8 of an inch off the track. If I go back to definitely pay attention to those dimensions. If I go back to my Cybertruck, eventually I'm probably taking into account my wheel size. I probably figured that out more so once I had an assembly, and I just needed to figure that from where the wheel is, from the lowest point on my car to where the bottom of the wheel is, has to be at least 3/8 of an inch. Otherwise, you'll rub the rail. It's a pretty short little rail, but you want to make sure you're not rubbing against that rail. And I have kind of an image of that, but potentially. I think I just took a picture of like this is the one like you can see you could be a little narrower than 1 3/4, but 1 3/4 is what we call minimum. That way you'll span these rails across here. And then this little rail is like 3/8 of an inch high. So you wouldn't want to rub against this as you're going down. And so from where your wheel rides to the top of that is 3/8 of an inch. I think I ended up a little bit taller than that. And so it's just something I needed to work with once I was deciding where my axle location was. But yeah, I think for me, if I go in here, I'm gonna probably come out to, what like this center line probably here, and I'm probably gonna try to sketch like the profile and then do like a cut either side of this. So I might try to do kind of the Beetle profile sketch on this plane and get it chopped And then I'm gonna have to come and probably do a kind of a profile this way as well and chop it through that way. That's kind of how I establish, I think, that's how I'm thinking of how I'm gonna establish my car, the car look is think of what it looks like on its side, think of what it looks like on its front. You can kind of do those extrusion cuts. I might have to add a bumper or two here, but I've got to go through and like research some imagery. So yeah, feel free to like um I'll probably pause my recording and do a little bit of research and pull up some imagery and start working on this. But yeah, yeah. So I'm just gonna pause or call this like part one of my car, and then I'll probably start another. I'll start another recording once I have an idea of how I'm gonna sketch this out. But definitely do some research and find out what car you want. I start pulling images off and saving pictures, which I thought I had a bunch of pictures of my Cybertruck because I definitely use just pictures to kind of like almost measure for proportions a little bit. So I'm gonna do that off camera, at least off recording, and then I'll come back when I've got some sketch work done here. I'll work on this till the end of my class, I think, for the moment. But stop my share and pause this part one.